excellent guy to coordinate with, to talk to about Jayden. He's one of those mentors where you're like, or advisors where you truly have a sense that he has the kid's best interest at heart. He's not chasing a buck. He's not chasing a dollar here. He knows the family, and he's just trying to advise them the best, to be an advisor the best he can. So OJ is very professional and has been very professional, I think, in my interactions. And I think, Jason, you'd repeat that, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We had him on the show, and, he was pretty straightforward about how he felt about things when it came down to the two quarterback situation and both of them being recruited and what they were saying. But he was absolutely professional about the whole thing, but he was real. You know what I mean? And I appreciated the fact that he didn't try to blow any sunshine up anybody's skirt. He was telling the truth. So it was what it was.
So obviously there's some connections there with Arizona, which I think could be a factor. And then we have Bo Bentley is going to LSU. This is the big LSU visit. The OU visits next weekend, and we'll cover all that next weekend on our get-together next week when we talk about the big June 6th recruiting weekend. But Bo Bentley's going in. If LSU is about to pull ahead, we are going to hear about it this weekend. It'll bubble up through various sources. It'll go live. But if LSU thinks they're trailing, we'll also hear that as well. So it's a huge weekend in terms of that news for OU football recruiting, because Bo Bentley's not taking a second visit. It's LSU and OU. Nothing else is going to happen. And as we've been telling you guys, we think a decision's coming pretty close after the OU visit. And then the last bit of OU QB recruiting news affecting Jayden O'Neal a little bit is FSU is throwing big money around at Houston verbal Keishan Henderson, who's a 5-star quarterback recruit out of the Houston area. Right now he's committing. He says he wants to go to Houston, but FSU is making a massive push to flip him. So if that was to happen, it will be interesting to see what Jayden does, because I think we all think that FSU is the main competitor to OU in this circumstance. But if FSU was to flip Keishan Henderson, it could leave. It could you. If I was Jayden, maybe I'd find myself in a situation where, let me go ahead and, if Bo Bentley verbals to OU, let me go ahead and take my OU visit. Let me see where things are. And maybe I would stick with OU through the summer and perhaps see how the fall goes and see which way things are going. But we'll see. But FSU is making a big play for this quarterback, and he would, if he's there at FSU, it becomes almost the same problem Jayden has with OU with Bo Bentley. So I don't know. We'll see how this shakes out, but FSU is making a big play for this guy, and everyone has him ranked really high. So
Chris Mason, if I could just jump in here real quick, I just want to know what, with Bo Bentley going to, let me restart. So last week, I think we spoke, in the last few weeks, I think we spoke and made it clear, all three of us, kind of which way we lean as far as which kid we would like to be, the next great quarterback at OU, right? So we talked about how we feel. Now let's talk about kind of what most people are saying will be reality, which is Bo Bentley being the next, committing to OU, right? So, and Jason, please follow up after Chris Mason. But the question is simply this: what is the likelihood that that Bo Bentley commits to LSU this weekend?
I think it's very low. He's going to take that OU visit. He said regardless of what happened, he was not going to verbal this weekend. So I think the chances, going into the weekend, it's maybe like 60-40 OU. So LSU's got to grab some kind of I know Parker Thune, Robert Willegier, is that right? Willegier? Said that on his podcast the other day. I listened to it as well. But LSU's spending money all over the place. They have a big recruiting class. They're spending money for Booby Feaster. They're spending money for lots of guys. There's a big offensive lineman they want from Mississippi. They're fighting A&M with them. LSU's looking for a number one class, so they're spending money all over the place. So I don't think they're as cash rich as everybody says just because they lost Bryce Underwood last year. So I don't see that as much of a factor. And if Arbuckle and Nagy like Bentley as much as in theory Arbuckle does, OU's going to pay money. They're not going to, LSU would have to go to a ridiculous amount of money on this, and everyone has finite budgets. So I think LSU. I think we'll know next week. By the Monday or Tuesday, the results of this LSU visit will bubble up. And if LSU homers are all putting in predictions for LSU, then you'll know something's up and OU will probably be in panic mode. But if everyone's still saying we don't know where he's going, then I think you have to give the edge to OU with the final visit. And OU's had more connections, more touch points with Bentley. Some of the family connections in terms of being OU fans and wanting him at OU, I think, pull through. But LSU will throw their shot at it. But I don't see OU not giving Bo Bentley a good NIL package to where he can say, well, I want to go where I want to be developed, and I want to be coached by who I want to be coached by. Which, if I was a quarterback, would be as long as the money hits a certain level where you're like, okay, I'm not being disrespected, or it's okay. I would go where I want to be developed at quarterback more than chasing the money up front at LSU.
Jason?
Yeah, I don't know that I believe all that. I don't know that I believe all that shit. I think that there's a number that OU doesn't hit. I think there's a number that OU doesn't hit, especially if your GM is not as sold on this quarterback as your OC is. And I would tell you that I think that they were in his home for a reason, and they were pushing for, they were pushing because they may have known that, and going after Jaden O'Neal. They had 4 people in there, one of whom you look at as the closer. I don't know that I believe all that shit. I'm just telling you. I'm not telling you I've heard anything or I believe anything. The last person that I listened to was Parker Thune. So let's not act like that's the thing. But I'm going to tell you this. I think that there is money that they will throw that Oklahoma won't. I just do. And I don't think they mind getting to it as far as LSU is concerned because of the Underwood thing. I think that, I was saying that 2 weeks ago. I know he said it this week or whatever. That's cool. But I said it 2 weeks ago. Underwood getting lost to that in that situation was not a good thing for LSU in the way it looks. And I know that they've got a really good quarterback in the portal that everybody loves, except for we haven't seen him win a lot of games because he was at Mississippi State, and it doesn't make the same kind of splash as a top 5 quarterback in a recruiting class. I don't see it. I don't see it. And on top of that, I think his line to get to play at LSU is shorter than it is at Oklahoma. You've got Hawkins. Even if you get material, you've got Hawkins, whatever. I mean, yeah, I guess that, theoretically it's the same, but I don't know that you don't end up seeing the Mississippi State kid move along somewhere else and they don't go big somewhere else too, and they don't continue in the portal there.
I like Michael Van Buren a lot, and I keep telling y'all.
I loved him out of high school. He was a good player.
That guy has he has proven he has actual college film. That he can live up to the moment. He was a true freshman last year that got thrown into a crazy situation.
Fair.
What? He went out there and balled out.
He did.
So the question is
that he can't go out there, and that's why I'm saying if Michael Van Buren is there, okay, yeah, he's still even if he stays there or whatever the case may be, then and he's the starter, you're still one away. You're still the backup there. Are you the backup there? If Mateer stays, I don't know that Hawkins stays, so I mean it could be what it is. But if Mateer ends up staying another year, then you're certainly not. I mean, I don't know that I believe that he's the backup if Mateer stays. Again, I don't know that this kid is going to be ready to be a number one or the first backup or any of that other stuff. I think you better hit the portal if you're Oklahoma if Michael Hawkins leaves.
Well, you got Whit Neubauer, who Brent was saying was like that they picked him up. So the only thing on the LSU thing is so he goes to LSU this weekend, and LSU offers him X. Okay, all right. We don't know what that. I'm not going to trust any of the valuations put out here in NIL stuff from all the nonsense that gets put out, right?
Sure.
So they offer him X. Can OU match 50% of X, 75% of X, or is it a quarter of X, right? And I think the margin between there is significant, right? Whatever that margin is, what OU does in terms of their NIL.
Why would you take less? Why would you take less if you're
Michael Fasusi took less, right? Because he wanted to be coached by Bill.
Did he though?
Did he take less?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
I can't give you the exact numbers of what the variable was. Was it 65% of X? Oh, that UT offered X, and
I think it had to have been pretty close to X.
It was supposedly a lot more that UT offered. That's why the UT fans and all the UT homers went nuts over him picking OU instead. I'm just saying, I think he probably has if it's close enough, I think the intangibles of, being coached by Arbuckle, being at Oklahoma where your parents would like you to be, not being coached by the killer, Brian Kelly, I think all of these things, kick in on some level. So, but we'll see.
I think there's the sexiness to LSU that comes along though too, man, and especially.
Well, I mean, they got wide, exactly, and they got wide receivers growing out of the bayou left and right, just bubbling up out of the water, and So yeah, I think if you were OU, this was not the program you really wanted to go head to head with. I think Georgia is a better run program, but QB wide receiver development, you'd be like at a stronger position, right? I mean, you'd be in a much stronger position pitching what you have. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get out of this. Well, Benji, the two things happened here. One, UT tanked his official visit almost to the point where he asked to go home after the first 24 hours. And two, his mom was on that visit, and they basically offended her badly. And Bill just has been hugging her, loving her up that entire recruiting. So that's why OU got Fasusi, right? The mom played a big role in that situation. It's an interesting, but Chris, it does leave OU an interesting situation because the opposite could happen. Jason could be completely on target with this in terms of OU's situation, where he goes to LSU. LSU offers him 4X, and X is what OU thought they were going to offer him, and he decides, I want to be the next Jaden Daniels. I want to throw to 3 first-round wide receivers. I want to be Joe Burrow. I want to be Joe Burrow. Go to LSU and be the next Joe Burrow. They're able to sell that, and he comes out of that and he says, "Well, I'm going to take the OU visit, but I'm really LSU has a huge lead, and OU could be like, oh shit."
He could have a silent commitment to him already by the time he leaves.
Yeah, you could say, "Oh shit, let's get Jaden on campus and get him on campus June 6th."
So we can end it. We can end it here, or if Jason, you got more, that's perfectly fine. But I do want you to give me your odds. Give me a certain percentage. Do you think it's 70% that he signs, 80% that he signs? I mean, not signs, but
I'm not doing the Parker Thune thing and being wrong.
Oh man,
fuck all that.
What?
No. I don't know. I'm just telling you, I don't know. Just like the rest of everybody doesn't know. Everybody's acting like they know. They don't know. They don't know. We won't know until he makes his decision. I think that there is enough money on the table in Baton Rouge to make it a scary proposition for Oklahoma. And if you lose him, you might have already lost Jaden O'Neal. I'm not going to sit here and act like this is a good situation. I think it sucks. I think it sucks all the way around. I think they fumbled and screwed this thing up from day one.
Mhm.
I don't think it's a good thing.
Now
They could have gotten. I think the big thing they're going to regret is that they didn't cut Jaden loose in January and go all out for Bentley in January. I think they could have got a quick verbal.
By not committing to either one of them, you're not going to get either one of them.
Now, to be fair,
It's like dating roommates. Eventually, it's going to blow up on you.
to be
Yeah,
fair,
it's just
well,
bad business.
unless you're Matthew Stafford's wife. But anyways, look, so
She must be really good at what she does.
I think I to be fair, last week we did talk about a certain pivot because there are more quarterbacks in this class. And again, I will say this. I will definitely say this, and I am not ashamed to say it. As long as Arbuckle is here, be honest with you, even if he's not here, because I think we got two guys on staff that could take over for him, but that's a story for another day. Guys, I think Jet New could be a problem for people. Sam Bradford vibes. I'm telling you, when you put that kid's film on, you're sitting there saying, "Hey, he's."
Are you still getting
very
the vibes for Bentley?
Huh?
Are you still getting those other vibes for Bentley?
Oh, you talking about the
Tannehill?
the Tannehill. I'm telling you, that's what I get. I get a project in the making that you're gonna have to sit him for the next probably 2 seasons, and just once he's here, you can get him. I'm sure we'll hear about how talented he is and stuff like this, but I'm sure that we'll still hear there are some things that he has to improve and all the rest of this stuff and all that and more. But I'm telling you, Jet New could be a problem in that quarterback room for whoever the 2026 incumbent is.
Jet New may be heading down the road to Tulsa.
I'm just letting you know, man. So Chris
I like his arm. I think he might be a good quarterback. I don't know that it's going to be at Oklahoma.
Yeah,
but
Chris Mason.
If he sits for 2-3 years, right, and the right window opens, sure, but that's not the world we're currently kind of living in.
I just know you go and put on that film, you're looking at it like,
no, he's a good kid. He was coached up well. He's got a good frame. He's got a red shirt. Yeah, I mean, but the problem is, again, how do you develop quarterbacks in an environment where everyone's hopping all over the place, right? How do you develop a guy?
Hard to do it. Yeah, that's the problem with it. And I think, I think that you're going to have plenty of opportunities to get quarterbacks. I'm more worried about holding on to Michael Hawkins than I am any of the guys moving forward. I think that this is gonna turn out how it turns out. And again, I think it sucks the way that they've handled this. And I don't think that it looks good on you as a recruiting, the way you're recruiting them if you lose them both. I think it could be a bad deal. And I think it is a bad deal. I think if you get one of them, it could still look like not very good. Especially if one of them, the one that you don't get, or both of them you don't get, especially if they go blow up somewhere else, like Florida State or, LSU or, hey, Arizona. Here's the thing. It's a lot easier to get to the damn playoff from Arizona or Florida State than it is to get there from Oklahoma or anywhere in the SEC. That's a fact. But you go over there and they blow up somewhere, now you look really bad.
Yeah.
Well, if you only get one of them, right? Let's just say you get one of them, and the other one quickly hits the field and looks great, while your guy is maybe struggling. I don't know. That's going to be the case in either one. But that comes back to it's going to come back to bite you a little bit.
The biggest fear that Oklahomans have, just like the whole. We talked about this a little bit last week. If Jackson Arnold comes in here with Auburn and looks good against our defense, you will never hear the end of that.
No. Even though.
Nobody.
We know he pisses down his leg. I get all that.
Nobody in their fucking mind believes that Jackson Arnold's going to look good. Jason.
Listen,
Jason Watkins. You know I have a lot of respect for you, bro. You came to my house that one day, man.
All I said was that it's a bad look. It's a bad look, and you don't want it, and it's the same bad look that you would get with that. I'm just saying.
You don't even believe the shit that you
I don't
say.
believe it.
Right
He pisses down his leg without need. I get that part. But
I mean, let's be honest. The three of us all believe there's a greater chance that we'll be seeing Deuce McKnight come Game 5.
That's very true.
I kind of feel like they will. Yeah, I don't even know.
Because I think if they
I don't even know if Jackson makes the trip. It's something he fell off the.
Is he pulling a Brent Rawls? Is he falling on the back of a pickup truck?
Man, he might fumble his helmet and it lands on his foot, and he's got an injury that he can't leave town on. I don't know.
I just think there's a good chance that Hugh Freeze is starting McKnight because he has to sell the future. He's going to be in desperate job mode selling the future. So,
yeah, dude, it sounds like he may not be doing very well to me because he's talking bowl games and we got to make a bowl. What the fuck?
Yeah, it could be bad, but that's the big recruiting story of the weekend is the two QBs are on the road, and it's the big Bo Bentley. We'll have a better idea on this next week when we meet again to talk about OU's big recruiting weekend, because the news out of LSU will bubble up one way or the other. It just will. LSU will either be like, nope, we're not getting him. We need to get somebody else into Norman, or there's a good chance our Jaden O'Neal sources are telling us the honey coming his way out of Norman has become sweeter. It's become a lot more. There's a big push to have him dump his FSU visit and come to Norman June 6th and close this thing up and do that. So we'll see.
I believed any of that.
Well, I don't think I think I could believe it actually happening. I can't believe it. I can believe OU pitching that. I can't believe Jaden at this point doing that, but we'll see. So, but that's the big recruiting story right now is Bo Bentley's in Baton Rouge, and we'll see what happens by Monday, Tuesday. Things could get real interesting real fast with OU QB recruiting.
All right. Chris Mason said, hold on, Coach said, what's your percentage, Chris? 60-40. I'm 60-40 on. I think 60%. I'm leaning towards that LSU commitment this weekend. 40% not. I think that LSU is going to come and bring a lot of money, and I think that that's going to make things interesting. And when they do, whatever decision comes down, guess where you can find the best information and the best reaction to it right here, right? Like on both channels, guys. Chris Mason, what's next?
Well, I think we should talk about the fact that Cole Kubelik thinks that OU has the best defensive line in the SEC, and according to him, it's not even close. It is OU by a landslide.
Jason, I'll let you take that one over.
So wait, repeat that.
So Cole Kubelik, who's a good SEC trenches analyst. He's not a homer for an
offensive lineman. He was a hell of an offensive lineman himself.
So he knows what he's talking about in the trenches, right? So, and when he's talking about SEC play, he's watching SEC play. He's not someone who's just looking at recruiting rankings and just spitting back who has the best guys. Okay. Mm-hmm. He said he ranked the top 5 defensive line groups in the SEC, and OU was number 1. Yeah. And quote unquote, the easiest of these rankings was OU at number 1, and it was by a landslide.
By 40 yards, he said. If you're starting a race from the 1 to the 100, it's a 40-yard lead. I've been saying this shit for months. For months. Best defense in the SEC. Damn sure going to be the best defensive line in the SEC. I think the depth there is. I think it's a embarrassment of riches on that D line. I think that there's really no reason why you should not be the best defense in the country, in the SEC for sure, which is going to make you the best in the country. You need to, and that's why there is a possibility of Oklahoma having a special season. Am I ready to go crown them national champions? No, I'm not. But if they play pretty good offense, they're gonna have a shot at the playoff. They are going to have a shot at that playoff in those last 3 games, to where there's no reason why you can't get there. And if they get to the playoff, nobody is going to want to deal with this Oklahoma football team. Nobody, because of that defense, is going to light it up.
What's really cool about this D line, especially on the interior, there's probably about maybe 5, 6 guys.
The interior has 6. Yeah, the interior has 6, and you've got about at least that many on the edges.
So when you get that wear and tear, a guy who comes in and it's an instant factor is G baby. You got to think about that as well. And most likely,
he's not even supposed to be the guy, right? He's not even supposed to be your guy. And he is one of the top dudes, right?
Yeah. It gets a lot of pressure, and gets sacks, very disruptive. But it's one of those things where can you see a better year for Williams? Can you see Marcus Strong take that step, or maybe Trenton Wilson is a guy that gets into the fold this year? So I think that Stoney is going to have
Michael Smith, Stoney, guys like that. I mean, absolutely.
And the transfer is a big body guy, right?
Yeah.
Ricky Solahaya. Solahaya, is that right? Solahaya.
So you have a bunch of versatile guys. I think the interesting part that we all are very, very interested in is just what is that other side of that DN going to look like. You hear about Wine. Obviously, Marvin Jones Jr. is there, and all the reports that you've heard about him coming to OU, it's been a complete opposite here. And that was something, I told Aunt, I think Jason, Chris Mason, I told you guys as well, I may have my criticisms of Miguel Chavis, but one thing I will never criticize him on is that he does get max effort from his guys.
He does.
Even if it's not necessarily what I want, he gets max effort. You see the effort, win or lose, whatever point in the game, they're fighting out there on the trenches. It's very violent out there. And so this year, to be able to pair,
ask Alabama what they thought about that defense and the defensive line.
To be able to pair R. Mason Thomas, to me, and you know what, I'm not going to get on Ethan Downs, but to me, whenever you could probably have a better pass rusher on that side this year. And, I think that could be key, because you obviously know they're going to have to game plan for R. Mason Thomas and then that interior as well, especially with Jaden Jackson. As much as he pops open himself, his first move is ridiculous. But whenever you're talking about that other side, that's going to be a side that's probably going to be, ran to a lot, especially off the tackles, trying to just test and see what do you have there. You don't have that anchor in Ethan Downs who sets the edge and, will make you, force things inside, or, just basically, that it's going to be a fight every time. But now you have a couple of guys over there, whether that be Okoye, whether that be Wine, whether that be Marvin Jones Jr., you have guys that you believe can get to the quarterback. So that's going to be the interesting part. And like you said, with the offense, if we're able to play with leads, people, as much as everybody wants to talk about BV, I have to say this right here. 22, not so good. 24, not so good. 23, pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. And we saw what a Brent Venables defense can do whenever they're able to play with a competent offense. That 23 year, go back to that, especially leading up to like the Iowa State game, the Texas game, and afterwards and stuff. It was really good football on the defensive side of the ball. But it's just one of those things. You got to have an offense. You got to be able to play with some leads. But even when you're not playing with leads, you got to go out there and make plays. And I believe this defense can do that. And I think this D-line, you can stack this D-line against just about anybody in the country. You can say this is that they're in the tops.
Yeah, I think that they're up there with, if there's a better one or one that's equal to it, maybe you're probably talking about Notre Dame. Somebody like that they've got a lot of those guys coming back. They've been very, very good there in the trenches over the last few years. Same thing. Maybe guys like maybe Michigan, I mean, I think they're going to be really good in the trenches as well. That's what they've done over the, all the time that Harbaugh was there. And I don't think that they've changed the way they're doing things. They're getting those big corn-fed, Midwestern boys that are huge. So it is what it is. As far as I saw that on the outside part. I mean, look, it could be any number of guys. I think the main thing, and this is something that Boganowski talks about this a lot. Good luck. Double team either side. Double team them, because if you do, then the guys in the middle are going to get your ass. That's how nasty they are. And I think that there's enough pressure coming from the outside. With Marvin Jones, I think that's the one thing that we know he can do well is get to the quarterback. He's just that type of twitchy guy. And he's got pedigree all day long. Now you're going to get the real effort out of him, and they're going to make sure that he's doing the right things. If his motor isn't up, you're not going to play. So he needs to play. He doesn't really have a lot of time left. So I think that you've got urgency there. I think that, and that's talking about him. Look, Danny Okoye, good luck keeping his ass off the field. He wants to be there. And I mean, the dude is so explosive. I think that PJ, look, I'm waiting on it too. There's a reason they made him a 5-star though. His brother's in the NFL. There's no reason why he can't develop at some point. Some guys take a little longer than others. There's no two ways around it.
And injuries have been a big factor with PJ. So this is his first healthy January, February, March, all through spring.
Yeah.
And healthy through the summer. Get to August and see where he is. And
go ahead.
he's got all the talent. Yeah, I mean, it's the other thing I think, and you guys have said this.
Hang to the ground, dude. He's got a wingspan that's ridiculous.
He's huge. If you see him next to the other, you see him next to CJ Nixon helping him move in, the kid looks massive. And CJ Nixon's not a small dude. So I think the big thing is.
Another thing I do want to say this about, we haven't said enough about it. I think that we talked about this earlier on a few weeks back when it was an issue. David Stone was if you didn't keep Stoney here, it was going to not be a good thing. And because everything that we have heard, he's gotten bigger. If it hadn't been for the injury that he had last year, he probably gets more than 90 snaps. But make no mistake, he is motivated to be that guy. And again, Dominic Williams, you've got, I loved it that you brought up G-Baby first, Chris, because G-Baby is one of the highest ranked guys in the SEC, according to Pro Football Focus, in that position. Jaden Jackson didn't just become a freshman All-American for nothing. Again, you're going to get pressure, and if they can't, and you want to talk about the rest of the defense. Look, Gentry Williams, a healthy Gentry Williams, have fun with that. Have fun with that. When you're getting pressure on your quarterbacks too. Kip Lewis coming back. Now he is I think that he's the unabashed leader of this football team now. He takes over right where Danny Stutzman left off. And again, they smell blood in the water, and they're coming to get, and then a guy like, Kendall Dobie, you can play him in so many positions that I'm not concerned about any of the defense whatsoever, but the fact that you have the best defensive line in the country is going to make it a lot easier on the back end. A lot easier.
I mean, you're very close to the Clemson. You're getting very close to the Clemson D-line 2015 through 2018. You're getting very close to that level. Everyone forgets Grayson Halton had 5 sacks last year. Was one of the best interior pass rushers. Marvin Jones Jr.
Go back to Kyle's real quick after he's done. Go ahead.
Yeah, Marvin Jones Jr. Did he loaf last year? Yeah, because he was every time he turned around.
So did the coaching staff.
So FSU had a terrible year, and he was getting his ass kicked in the running game by Georgia Tech in Dublin. So it was.
He's not going to play there,
But he's. You got to run hot if you're going to play for Chavis. That's all. That's just the way it goes. And there are guys nipping at him for playing time. So it'll either work or it won't. And I think it'll work. But I do think if the offense is putting up points, as both you guys have said, and the defense is playing from ahead, offenses are going to have to attack, not sit back in a shell because they know OU's offense can't do a damn thing and they've got a 10-point lead.
Sure.
Right? So when you've got to aggressively go after the OU defense in the fourth quarter, having a plethora of pass rushers where you can keep fresh bodies in there attacking the quarterback, and you can tell Danny Okoye, QB, go kill.
Just turn him loose. Just turn him loose.
Turn them loose, and then you got the same thing, and I think that just makes a big difference. And for the we were as good as the defense played last year. The defense with an offense to complement it will be even better.
Right. Yeah, and I think the concern that you would have, obviously, you got to be concerned about losing the leadership of Danny, and obviously Billy and Danny, both of them. You know what I mean? That's leadership. But here's the thing: leadership leads. They knew that it was their time. And again, the depth at the safety position is unreal. And I know people have said stuff about the linebackers and the depth there, but I don't think that's a problem either. I just want to go back to what he said. Yeah. Can he stay healthy? Listen, I don't think he got healthy and we've talked about why. It was a miss. They missed on it, and he had to miss the season because of the miss by that team. We know that's what that was. Everything you've heard is better than it has been ever. He feels better now than he did before he got the original injury, which again was not repaired. I mean, I hate even saying it. I just don't think it was repaired. And so it kind of repaired itself, or, it starts healing, but it's not properly. And then he gets hit on it and it goes away. Now they found it. And he's feeling better, according to everybody, than he's been in a long time. And so, yeah, do you count on them? Do you count on them, staying healthy a whole year? I don't think anybody's crazy enough to say that anybody would stay healthy a whole year. This is the SEC. You can get hurt. But I think that it is telling that Venables, and I think we're going to talk about this in a minute, they didn't go grab up anybody in the portal at corner. Why do you think that is? Because they think they're better with who they have in the building. And I trust the defensive staff. I just do.
And one last D-line comment. Marcus Strong looks freaking huge.
Brother.
I mean, I was like, he was in a photo, and I'm like, who is that monster? And there's one thing we know about, we saw it with any number of guys in the first 3 years. Bates defensive tackles get better year over year. Every year they're coached by him, they get better. They improve. Yeah. So Dom Williams is going to be better this year. Jackson and Stone will be better. And Grayson Holton will be better. And we know that Marcus Strong, who's now 2 years removed from his high school knee injury, he tore his knee up in high school. That's why OU was able to grab him as late as they were, because other teams didn't quite know what was going on with him. And Bates figured that out. So really, you see that he could be, if he's playing well as your fifth defensive tackle. I mean, again, you're able to keep
kind of like that Tennessee D line from last year that they just rolling them in.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's a recruiting question in here. Somebody asked me about or was asking about Deuce Gerald's. Do you see Deuce Gerald's visit to Oklahoma? Deuce Gerald's isn't going to visit Oklahoma. Oklahoma's not really in that recruiting battle any longer. And there's two main reasons for that. Deuce Gerald's is 6'1", 270. And everybody Bates is offering is at least 6'3", 6'4". So do the math there. And Gerald's, Ole Miss, he's an Ole Miss grad. Alum. His dad played at Ole Miss. Ohio State wants him because a smaller 3-tech works for their scheme a little bit. And if you're OU, for a guy who doesn't really meet the measurables and doesn't really fit your defense, why are you gonna pay a lot of money to compete with Ohio State and Ole Miss, right? And then lose out at the end. Focus on the guys you like. Focus on the guys you want. Brian Harris, Tavion Branch was just at the Under Armour New Jersey camp. He's 6'4", 295 pounds, ran a 4.95 40 and a 1.76 10. Those are all NFL measurables. And he's 6'5", 6'4", 295, and he's lean. He'll be 6'4", 320 before we know what happened. They want Valdon Sone, the Swedish defensive tackle. They want Elijah Golden from Florida, and they want Tyron Richardson, who's 6'5", 285, and flies around the field. So that's where OU's going. Every one of the defensive tackles they're looking at are long, mobile, and athletic, have NFL-type measurables. So that's why they're not focusing on Deuce Gerald's. That's why Tank Carrington's visit got canceled, because he's 6'2", 255. So that's where OU's changed up their board and are focusing more on Bates has just found a bunch of defensive linemen that have the measurables, Nagy views, as being what they need. Long, athletic defensive tackles that you can turn into 6'3", 300 plus, keep their mobility and speed, and you have 3 or 4 of them as opposed to signing one guy. So that's the D-line recruiting update. They got Brian Harris, who we all love on film. I think they get Tavion Branch from Pennsylvania, and I think they get Taj Overton from I think he's at Jenks. Is he at Jenks? No, I'm sorry. I think he's at Owasso. They get the in-state kid, Taj Overton, who I also really like. So that's why Deuce Gerald's is off the board. That's why Tank Carrington's off the board. They're just focusing on big kids with big frames who are super athletic, which will be a trend line for moving on at all these positions. Long, athletic guys with high ceilings and high development potential.
Aggie effect. Chris Mason, let's. I think we had some good segues into. I think our last topic for tonight. Comments from BV. So you and Jason, go ahead and take that over. Whichever one of you guys want to go first.
Go ahead, Chris.
The first one we already referenced, right, is that George Stoya from Sooner Scoop asked the question specifically why OU didn't take a portal cornerback, and Brett's answer basically is, well, I love the guys we have versus what was available in the portal. And what was available in the portal was completely and totally overpriced. Talent per dollar numbers just didn't work. Nobody who hit the portal was worth what other teams were paying them. Not when you're OU and you have Eli Bowen, Gentry Williams, Jacoby Johnson, Devon Jordan, Cortland Guillory, Jeremiah Newcomb. Probably you're playing him at Cheetah, but he could move back to corner if you wanted with Malik Hawkins, and Tristan Haynes is probably a good summer away from being of interest in the cornerback position as well. So, and you could play Kendall Dolby at corner if you need to. So why in the world did you spend 4x times what you're willing to spend on a cornerback from a cornerback that's just not any better than, the guy would have to be better than Jacoby Johnson to be worth the paying money for.
So
go ahead.
Let me jump in here. So definitely speak for Unc on this one. He wanted the kid from Washington State. He said, "Hey, we need that kid," and so
who's not done a damn thing at Miami so far.
Hey, I'm just relaying the message. That was a kid that was on Unc's radar. He said, "Hey, man, we gotta have that kid." So I didn't know if that was some,
Well, that's not a spring. That was a winter cornerback, right? And they had that lined up and they had that locked in, and then Miami came over the top with a big offer, which OU was not prepared to match. Which, everyone's got a budget. Maybe Miami doesn't have a budget, but everybody seems to have a budget. And again, and this guy
Texas has a budget. A&M has a budget.
Come on. You know, some Saudi oil prince is just going to buy the A&M pro football program.
Listen.
Yeah, I mean, I think they wanted that guy. They lined it up. They thought they had that verbal commitment, but he chose Miami. There wasn't anybody as good as him in the spring portal that was worth OU. I mean, OU didn't bring a single soul in, not a single player at cornerback in for spring. Didn't offer anyone or bring anyone in. So they obviously felt.
Well, Chris, I want to ask you too. I think part of it is the guys they've brought in the last couple of years haven't been that good.
Well, the Walker kid wasn't very good. Walker struggled. He's a safety, and obviously the guy they brought in from
San Diego State wasn't very good either.
The CJ Colden was pretty good.
Yeah,
I liked him.
He turned into a bright spot. Yeah.
If he could have enrolled in spring and been the starting cornerback,
sure,
in 22, that would have been right off the bat. That would have been a nice addition.
And then Kendall Dolby, I know he's played a lot of cheetah and stuff like that, but man, he made plays. He made plays from day one when he got to Oklahoma.
Yeah, and he's been
playing
cornerback
coming out of JUCO.
At NEO, he played all over the field, but they played him at corner. So again, if Jacoby Johnson, this is year 3, right? This is the time to click, make it happen.
That's a stud. He's a
big,
long kid, speed.
And they screwed him up with that whole wide receiver fiasco last year in the fall, right?
It was not good.
Yeah. Not good. So they left him where he needs to be. He's got a chance to play. And again, to echo what Jason said, they brought in a specialist on Gentry who basically said, no, you missed this. Gentry went to go see a specialist, a shoulder specialist that OU found. I don't know who that guy was. Not privy to that information. And the guy found it and said, this is the problem, do this, and it should be better. And they've done that. And Gentry was flying around in spring. I mean, he was completely healthy. They held him back as much as they could. So, you're
bubble wrap his ass, man. Bubble wrap him.
Again, I mentioned this on my Patreon site. There were 5 things I said that could take the OU defense to like elite level. Like, one is Gentry Williams' shoulder, Peyton Bowen's foot, is another one. And, it's what do the defensive end guys do? And what does David Stone do? Those are if those things all click, this OU defense goes from, well, that's a really good defense to, okay, what do we do here? So, I think for Brent, it's reaffirmed. I mean, it's time for Jay Valai to develop his guys and get them on the field and have them kick ass, right? It just is. So I think Brent, I'm confident. I'm happy to hear Brent was that confident about the CB guys and said they had a good spring, right? There's talented guys. Devon Jordan is a talented guy. If he could put 10 pounds on and be 6'1", 180. Tee up T Boomer's question and I'll see if I can answer it the best I can. Devon Jordan could be a breakout guy for OU. Okay, so the players from spring that we haven't really heard about that we believe will be healthy in August. So the guys we believe will be fully healthy in August are Heath Ozetta, Howland, Jaden Jackson, and Javonte Barnes.
And Den as well.
And Isaiah Avery-Dent and Nigel Smith. They should all be healthy. They were hurt at the end of spring. Significantly hurt at the end of spring. They weren't able to dress out for any of the combine stuff. Okay. The guys we're unsure about, it's Gentry on some level, Jaden Gibson and Giovanni Gibson. And I'm not sure if Darius Afalava is if they just need to redshirt him from the knee injury they scoped in spring to clean up his high school injury. Just not sure what they do with him. But that's about it. Other than that, most of the team is
feels like it would be tough to get into that rotation, right? I mean,
a red shirt probably works,
freshman, right?
Yeah, it works for everybody probably on that standpoint. So, we heard that Giovanni and Jaden are on track to help. I think Giovanni is probably ahead of Jaden. That's my understanding of things in general. But that Jaden is connected to the team and he's working out to try and be ready. Now, August comes around, maybe we get a different story. But I think Brent would have slow played the Jaden comments this week if he didn't feel good about where he was morale wise with the team. He'd be like, well, we'll see. We're not sure about Jaden. I think he would have been more standoffish, but he was pretty positive about both guys. So I think that's where the team is. The team is the three big guys. Obviously, we need to see August 1st hitting it are Jaden, Ozeda, and Howland. The three shoulder surgeries in the trenches. We need those guys back ready to roll. And there's no reason why we shouldn't, but those are the three guys I think that you need to see them ready to roll. Those are the guys that we would have liked to have had in spring, but weren't available for spring. So, but you get all three of those guys back. O-line depth is radically improved, and if Jaden's back at nose guard to go with what we have at D-line, then everything's. We've got a Penn State fan in here talking shit about South Carolina's line.
He must be out of it. He's out of his damn mind. He didn't realize how many of those guys are no longer there.
Okay. All right.
He does this. Don't worry about him. He does.
Oh, okay. I mean, I love the Stewart kid is awesome.
But
his three starters have left. So, but all right. But yeah, so that's the cornerback news that really Brent's really positive and really high on the cornerback group, which I think is what we wanted to hear, right? That you didn't. That the big thing is you just can't Nagy just doesn't want OU overpaying for somebody who doesn't help, right? You spend $300K on a cornerback portal guy in spring who's fifth team. And what is that doing for you? Absolutely nothing. So I think that was the point. So, but the next big topic was that Brent he wasn't throwing Jackson Arnold under the bus, but he was clearly indicating that he's a lot more confident in John Mateer than he is Jackson Arnold. He says this is the best QB room he's had since he's been at Oklahoma. He was talking up Whit Neubauer a little bit. Okay, you're arguing about Gabriel Dindy? Really? Seriously? I love the kid.
But I said no one ever.
But he's been hurt for 2 years, man. I mean,
come on,
okay.
man. Oh, he's serious?
Right. Okay. But so Brent, Chris, Brent was really high on the quarterback situation. He was really high on Hawkins. I think Brent obviously has he's absorbed the punishment that I'm never not having a official QB coach again, right? Because he was talking about Hawkins. He said, you could just tell the Hawkins development over winter and spring being coached up and being coached correctly, that he just made, huge leaps in terms of his potential and what he could do. So he was talking up Witt, he was talking up Matoya, and he was talking up Hawkins. So I thought it was interesting. He was double downing. Dylan Stewart is an absolute beast. Thank you, Captain Obvious. What's your next penetrating insight into college football? I mean, saying Dylan Stewart is a beast is like saying, it's like saying Caleb Downs is a good safety. Wow. Where did you come up with that? I mean, give me a freaking break.
So I'll jump in here real quick. So again, I'm just kind of reiterating something that I've said in earlier podcasts that we have, but I think the thing that gives you excitement about this offense is that the biggest difference between last offseason to now, specifically for the offense, is that you've heard the same thing as far as BV is throwing the kitchen sink at Mateer, and guess what? You're able to have an actual practice. You get what I'm saying? You're able to go out there.
Right, you're having touchdowns. He's burning the defense at times.
you're able to go out there and have touchdowns and be able to have competitive practices and give guys a chance to have competitive reps against each other. So that, to me, that speaks volumes, because last year we heard, Jackson Arnold struggling, interceptions, this and that. Michael Hawkins looks better, but they're not throwing as much at him, this and that and this. Then you heard, all the problems that Seth Luttrell was having, on and off the field. You just you just were never, you were hopeful more than you were confident. And I think that this year that has flipped to the point where you're confident that, given the time, given guys being healthy and, doing what you need to do out there on the field, you should be in good hands. So I think that's kind of been a blessing in disguise, that, and an underrated topic that people haven't talked about, is the fact that you're able to actually have coherent practices where you can get competitive reps for everybody, where some days defense does win and some days the offense does win. So, I mean, that's one of the things that you do feel good about. Again, I know it was 7-on-7. I know not everybody was happy with the spring showcase, or whatever they want to call it, the spring combine or whatever, but you guys saw the videos that I sent you all inside of the our chat or whatnot. You could convince me just off of that. No, it's 7-on-7 and stuff like that, but I saw things from a lot of people out there that I was like, hey, I like that. Oh, I like that. Saw some of the drills, different things like that, getting to see guys in jersey again and getting reps. Again, it's just one of those things where you can't underestimate the power of being able to run a coherent practice and not having to try to game plan every day, as far as how do we get the best out of this kid without killing this kid, but then again, how do we do that without hurting the rest of the team? So I think that's just a different spot for OU this year in the offseason.
Yeah, the last comment is, and it's sort of funneled through, some various sources, but I know George Stoya made it, so I want to give him credit for that, is that he was saying that Kevin Wilson is going to be playing the Matt Wells role from 2023. So he's going to be helping Brent with the sideline management. And if you know anything about Kevin Wilson, he's going to call shit out when he sees it. I mean, he's not going to be, he's basically, if you're the architect of one of the best college football offenses of the last 20 years. The 2008 Sooners were unreal. Kevin Wilson had that offense humming at a ridiculous level. I mean, OU has, Kyle's right, we got a real OC, and he's been spending all winter and spring teaching and instilling confidence in these guys. And, and then Bill's got help from Kevin Wilson, which is huge. You guys got to remember, Kevin Wilson was the shit.
Have help from Kevin Wilson.
Kevin Wilson was the shit when he was here the first time, before he left to go take that Indiana job. When he left, things fell apart a little bit for OU. We didn't replace Kevin Wilson really when he left, and that was a drop-off that we saw. So he's had some problems at some different places, but in the role OU wants him to have, he can thrive in, and that can be that we can get the best out of Kevin Wilson. And here's the other thing. Brent trusts him completely. Those guys go back so far, have so much positive history with them. And, you just can't look at Kevin Wilson's resume and say, well, he doesn't know what he's doing offensively. It's again, you just can't. So I think, the quarterback stuff was great. The cornerback stuff was great. And to hear Kevin Wilson is really helping with the offense and going to help Brent on game day, doing what Matt Wells did the year before in 2023. Those three things, that's a lot of positive news for OU fans coming out of Destin.
And I think that's something else that is very underrated, that nobody has talked about as well, is that those offensive meetings are going to be ran probably a lot different this year, with Arbuckle there and then having Kevin Wilson in the room. Now you're going to have two voices that can be louder than Venables as far as, hey, this is the game plan, this is what we need to do. But I think with Venables, I think last year Venables, to a fault, and maybe that was his fault. Maybe he shouldn't have did that. And we don't want him to do this, that, and this. But me being a BV supporter, I'm going to support my guy and say I think that at some point as the head coach, you have to go in there and say, hey, we need to do everything we can to put it all on the defense. Defensively, I could get us there. Offensively, we need to run a very, very sound and stringent offense that is predicated on these three things so we can make life easier on our quarterback.
No doubt.
And the limitations that we have right now with our O-line and wide receivers with everybody being banged up. So I think that people, if you want game management from him, I think that was probably the best game management you saw as far as just telling Joe John and getting all of them on the same page as far as we got to do the best we can. We got to do what's best for Jackson.
Run the damn football well.
So we got to run the damn football. We got to get Jackson comfortable, put it all on the defense. I could get us there, and I could give us a fighting chance. As one of my uncles would always say in basketball, he was a coach. He always would say, "Get me to the last 2 minutes. I'll get us there to win this game. Get us to the last 2 minutes." And that didn't necessarily happen last year, but you saw what BV was trying to do. You saw what that team was trying to do, the direction they went in the latter half of that season. So I just think that there's some underrated things there are some things that are going under the radar right now that people don't even realize. And I think that's what gives, when you stop and you actually think about it in that scope, I think that's what gives you a lot of excitement about what this team could potentially be, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, and I think that's where if you're coming at it from the angle of the offense, you don't want them going out there and scoring in 30 seconds. You don't want them scoring in one play. You want them to go out there and if you can get a decent running game out of this team, listen, that's going to make them a lot deadlier through the air as well, because you're going to have to, if you can't do what we've talked about that you have to do in the SEC, you have to be able to get pressure from light boxes. And if they're not able to get pressure from light boxes because our offensive line is better and we know it is, and you're running the ball well, so you have to be careful about bringing a lot of pressure. I think it's going to give it. And look, we know that Mateer, I know everybody, that narrative out there, some coach anonymously said he doesn't trust in Mateer, blah, 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 blah. I don't know how much that was bullshit and how much it wasn't. But I know this. It doesn't matter what the hell anybody said about him. The dude still went out there and put up 44 fucking touchdowns last year. He can play. You know what I mean? If you give him a running game that's a lot better than the one that they had at Washington State last year, he's going to play even better. And look, I don't care to see them. If they're in the top 10 in the offense, they're probably scoring a little much, to be playing complementary football the way we really want. You need to be explosive at opportune times, and you need to control the clock at the rest of the time.
Hey, guys, real quick, just a little kind of a sidebar, but really is still on par with what we're talking about with the offense. Hey, man, shout out to my uncle. He sent me a video, and it was a guy breaking down film on Ott.
Yeah. Coach Carter?
Whew, boy. It's not necessarily watching Ott, break off these big runs and different things. I think what got me what had me the most excited watching that video was the fact that I saw a lot of similar actions that Arbuckle likes to run.
I saw that too. Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay. So this could be seamless. If we get a healthy Ott, and we can combine him with a healthy and a more seasoned X-Rob, if Taylor Tatum can take that leap, that step to be the guy that we all think he could be, or a Blaylock, if you could get a three-headed monster and Ott and X-Rob are kind of your 1A, 1B, vice versa, whichever one, that would be deadly. But yeah, or Javonte. But it was just one of those things where I was watching Ott and I said, hey, this could be seamless, because there was a lot of actions that Cal was running, where I was like, oh God, like Arbuckle runs that as well. Some of the misdirection, even off of the GT counter, I was like, oh, this is crazy. I was like, they're pulling, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what Arbuckle is running. So I thought that was an interesting point as well. And that really got me even more hype than I already was about Jaden Ott.
No, that video was good. It's from Coach Carter, I think. I watched it on YouTube.
Yeah,
he's
pretty good.
He's pretty good. It was a really good video. I mean, he wasn't using any of the 2023 stuff. He was using 24 when Ott was hurt,
right?
And he didn't have the same.
He mentioned that too. That like he was like, I watched his other film from the year before that, and it was different than this. There was runs that he had that would have been touchdowns the year before that.
Yeah,
obviously he played through an injury. I agree. I was just watching that one again last night. I think I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and then I watched a little bit more of it again last night. I think that there's enough in the room. Yeah, it was all for you there, Unc. It was all for you there, Unc. Look, I think that there's enough guys in the room that they should be able to run the football, whoever it is. But I love Jaden Ott. I think that that he is explosive on another level. You've got some kids, the young guys. Again, I think all three of those guys you talked about, Taylor Tatum, obviously Xavier Robinson. I think that he's kind of similar to X-Rob. You know what I mean? He's a little similar as far as being able to run through trash, do some stuff like that, and still be able to break away. I really like that. And then look, Torrey Blaylock's. We keep hearing things about Torrey Blaylock that it's unusual how good he is as a freshman, and he showed out.
And his dad's working his ass off.
The pedigree is there. Yeah. I mean, let's not forget that his dad was a hell of a running back in the NFL. So the pedigree's there. His dad's working him. I like the idea of where they're at on that. Again, you don't have to be the number one offense in the country. You got to be serviceable. You got to be able to
take advantage of opportunities when the defense makes them. Put points on the board.
The defense is going to give you opportunities too.
Yeah, I mean, and you're going to get the ball back. Don't. Again, J.D. Pickell, to go around the board of talking heads on YouTube and all that. He was saying that he was talking about this huge gamble. It's a huge gamble OU's taking with Mateer. This anonymous coach nonsense, right? It's a huge gamble, and he was like,
a huge gamble to get rid of a turnover machine for.
That's what he said. Well, not to throw shade anywhere, but huge gamble would have been standing pat and just praying that that your starter improves year over year. I mean, that would have been the huge gamble. Taking the best quarterback in the portal, that's not exactly a huge gamble.
Right.
But the other interesting thing Pickell posted,
it's a win now move.
Yeah, he said, I've looked at OU's schedule with Mateer, OU has a QB advantage in 10 out of their 12 games. And the only games where it's toss-ups are Sellers at South Carolina and Nussmeier with LSU. He said, Arch could be great, but right now, if you compare Mateer's experience to Arch's lack of experience, OU has a QB edge. And it just made sense that, I'm like, well, if you take what Pickell's saying, and again, he's not an OU homer. He's not James Hale. He's not, some OU homerific guy. And then you take Cole Kubiak, who is out front, just good analyst. He watches lots of film. When he says your O-line sucks, your O-line probably sucks. I mean, just when you get down to it, if he says your O-line's competent, your O-line's pretty good. So when you take Kubiak and Pickell in terms of, okay, best D-line and your QB is probably going to be best 10 out of 12 games. I don't know, but if you're excelling at QB and you're excelling at the defensive line, it's, I was talking to an OU fan and he's like, I'm getting myself all excited. I'm just setting myself up to fail. I'm like, but if you can't get excited right now, you're not an OU fan, right? Look, I mean, Kyle, I think he's going to pick, it sounds like he's going to pick OU to be like 9-3 or something. But it's just, and then you've got Brent's comments from the beach. If you're not excited about where OU's going right now and some of the vibes, then, find a way to get psyched up again. It's it's June. We should be psyched about our football team. One last comment. Have you seen the Carson Kent workouts on YouTube that he's on Twitter he's been posting? He looks great.
Seen him yet.
He looks ripped, jacked up, and he looks great.
Smitty effect.
Yeah, I mean he looks like he, again,
Dude,
he looks good. He looks like a real athlete. What he'll do as tight end, I don't know, but the fact that everyone's like he's from Kennesaw State, he's awful. The kids,
That's such a lazy thing to say.
it is. You just look at the
lazy
kid.
thing to say. It's just lazy.
He had a great second half of spring, and the kid looks like he's in great shape, working out like a monster. So we'll see.
Well, people, we've been on here for an hour and 13 minutes. Look, always going to get this top-notch content here, so definitely like, subscribe, do all those different things to the channel. It is one of the favorite times of the year for a lot of people. Softball looks like they're probably going to win another championship, 5 straight, right?
Tennessee is in shambles.
Let's speak that into existence. And then we're on this run for OU baseball. Obviously, I know a lot of people are excited about the Thunder. I'm a Lakers fan. Just throwing that in there for you guys. I've been there 17 times. Oh, excuse me, 18. I'm sorry. I don't know. I can't keep up. Anyways, with that being said, people, we are less than 100 days away from college football. So, can't forget, EA is about to drop as well. So the new college football game is going to drop. So that's going to be a lot of hype. And that's going to drop, I think, July 10th, July 12th, whichever one. And then you already know right around that time, SEC Media Days will be taking place. So, people, we are getting close. We are getting very close. So definitely tune in, tap in, because we're going to have a lot of news. And, of course, next week is a big recruiting weekend for OU. And kind of put up or shut up with the whole Bo Bentley thing and Jaden O'Neal. That is coming to the ultimate climax. And with these two guys here, with what they do kind of offline and the powers that be that they speak to, definitely want to come over here if you want to get just, not any fluff, but just kind of what's really going on and get some cool perspective. So that being said, Hall of Fame College Football Podcast with Jason and the coach. Shout out to Coach for being in the chat tonight. Sooners 360, go over there, check out the Patreon, do all those different things for Chris Mason. Horns Down Podcast, you already know. Guys, we are out of here tonight.